So as you can see, you form a personality, and we don't even know that we're doing this. It's a lot of it is actually learned, and unless you learn how to become aware of what a need is and how to feel for it, you're going to be going for strategies. Uh, and the reason, I mean, for an obvious reason why we go for strategies. Strategies are there. It's an action that you can take so that your needs can be met. So without the strategy, your needs can't be met. So it makes sense that we see a strategy as a need, because if the strategy is working, your needs are continuing to be met. But and even if you know what your need is, if you don't have a strategy, that means that your needs can't be met, right? So of course strategies are very important. So I'm not docking on strategies, actually. I'm just saying that oftentimes when we have conflict or when we're dissatisfied, the issue is that we have an ineffective strategy, and what we need to do is just become aware of what our needs are so that we can actually adjust the strategy to be effective in the moment. And this lack of awareness is what causes most of the issue. And strategy is actually really a thought, and a need is actually a feeling, both whether it's an emotional need or whether it's a instinctual need. It's a feeling. And even an intellectual need is the desire for excitement or something new or novel, or to solve a problem, the sense of productivity, right? The sense of, so even an intellectual need is actually a feeling. And so unless we dial in with our feeling, we don't know whether we what our intellectual need is, our emotional need is, and what our instinctual need is. And so that's actually really where the issue is. And so most of the time what happens is when one strategy doesn't work, without recognizing what the need is, we start trying to problem solve. And that's where the issue comes. So let's say, for instance, you have an identity as someone who is disciplined and is responsible, and provides for the family, and you're about to go to work, and let's say, for instance, one of your family members says, can you help me, like whether daddy, can you help me, or like mommy, can you help me, or hey, like the spouse is asking, whatever the situation is, and you're like, hey, can't you see that I gotta go to work? Why are you asking me? This is like irresponsible. Or you should ask me when it's more convenient. You're inconsiderate. Now these are strategies, and this makes sense. Why? Because you're trying to meet your need to take care, and this is your way of taking care of the family. And you're basically saying, can't you see that I'm trying to take care of the family, that I'm trying to be responsible for all of you? Why are you putting me in this difficult position where I cannot win? And it comes from this place of not wanting to feel bad and trying to meet needs. And so most of the time when we have a problem, we try and not have the problem. But trying to not have a problem never gets a need met, right? The real need is for you to meet your family members' need. And also that's your need. It's a common need. We want to support. And at the same time, we also have a desire to be responsible. But your family member also has a need for you to be responsible. So again, these are common needs to all. It's just that we're caught up in our strategies because the strategy is prioritized so that you can do and get your needs met. Because as I explained, if your strategies are not working, then your needs are not being met, right? So it is actually a good system to kind of look at your strategy as a need. However, if that's where your awareness level is, then you're going to try and basically not compromise your strategy, or you're going to try and compromise your strategy, but you're going to be thinking around your strategies. And so you're going to be like, hey, you know what? Like, you're going to try and come up with rules, again, to come up with more strategies. So once you start at the strategy level, then you're going to be talking more and more about the strategy, and you will never get down to a need level. And you will keep coming up with solutions, but for some reason you'll keep having the same issue. And the reason is because your needs are not being addressed. And even though you're solving a problem, you're solving the wrong problem. So people come up with rules, like say for instance, hey, next time if you have an issue, why don't you ask me after work? And then the person comes, and asks after work, but you're dead tired, and the person's like now afraid that they are still not going to be able to meet the needs and think it's really inconsiderate, and then say, hey, can't you see that I just got back from work? I'm really tired. And the person says, I thought this was our agreement. This is what you asked for. And then, now the blame game starts. Well, you can never handle your own feelings. You can never do this. Or like, oh, you always need to talk. And then now like, oh, you're never available. And so now you have a war going on when actually both parties want to connect. They're just feeling incapable to meet the needs because they don't actually know what they are. And they're trying to protect these strategies because they're afraid that without these strategies, no needs are going to be met. So it's a really sad situation if you really think about it. And so, and then they come up with more rules, they come up with more disappointments, they come up with wrong expectations. And the whole reason is because people are trying to not do any harm. And that's a good thing. We should try not to do any harm. But if you stop there, then you never get to meeting needs. And so you just come up with more strategies not to do harm, and you never get to a fulfilling life. And so, like the conversation before, where it said, hey, like I have this need to talk. Are you available? And it's like, oh, you know what? I just got called into work right now. I do want to help though. And then you become a lot more flexible. My commute is like 30 minutes. Do you think I can talk to you like for 30 minutes while I'm driving? And the person's like, oh, you know what? That'd be really good. I really appreciate that. Do you see? If you're around needs, like if you're thinking around needs, you become a lot more flexible. So instead of trying to protect your ego structure, which is something you need, actually, it's actually how you relate to other people. Hi, I'm so and so. And my name is so and so, and that's part of your identity, right? And this is what I do, and this is what I love, and this is who I am. Of course, we are a lot more than who we tell someone else. I mean, that's just kind of a name tag. And that's what an ego is. It's a name tag. It allows you to relate, it allows you to get in the door, and it allows you an introduction, and so that you can have the start of a relationship. And it allows you to also have a sense of who you are, so that you can keep building a certain sense of sense and keep cultivating what you want to cultivate, which is which is a good thing. But when there is a conflict, we need to become present. And as we talked about, a need is what makes us present, right? Because a need is something that calls our attention to it. If something in our system is out of balance, then it's going to call our attention, such as through pain. Well, it's all through pain, actually. It's one of the reasons why pain grabs our attention, whether it's emotional pain, intellectual pain, or instinctual pain, right? It grabs our attention. And so nothing allows us to be as present as when there's some kind of imbalance, because we need to actually bring balance back. And so we want to be present with the current needs just naturally. And so our fear of not being able to do so on an ongoing basis is actually what has us fight for our identity, if you will. Like, oh, this is who I am. So when someone, for instance, actually says something about you, that's why we're trying to defend it instead of actually listening for the need beyond. And so the main key thing is that when something doesn't work, we just need to become present to what's naturally calling our attention, which is the pain, which is the need. And once we hear that, then out of that actually oftentimes a new identity comes out, because a new solution just naturally comes out of those needs.